From WEEK, your home team, this is 25 News at 10.
Good Friday evening, everyone. I'm Tyler Lopez.
And I'm Caitlin Canute. We do start tonight with breaking news.
One woman is dead following a house fire earlier tonight in Pekin. Here's what we know so far. It happened at 2712 Overhill Drive. We're still waiting to learn more details about when this fire broke out, but we do know the woman was taken to OSF St. Francis Medical Center in Peoria, where she was pronounced dead around 7:30 this evening.
That's right. Peoria County Coroner Jamie Harwood tells us the victim was a 66-year-old woman. Her name has not yet been released. Harwood adds that there were at least 2 other people in the home at the time of that fire who did survive. Also new tonight, a former DCFS worker in Pekin is facing charges after allegedly soliciting sex from an underage girl. 58-year-old Melvin Duvall is accused of meeting a 14-year-old online and arranging to meet her in a park, but he claims he was robbed by several juveniles and he then contacted police. Now, the Journal-Star is reporting, although this happened in August of 2016, Duvall was just formally charged today with 2 felony counts of official misconduct, 2 misdemeanor counts of obstructing a police officer, and misdemeanor solicitation of a sex act. We checked with the Tazewell County Jail, and he is not currently in custody. The paper also cites DCFS as saying Duvall no longer works there. And in a quick update, the jail did say that he posted $5,000 bond.
A former cop is headed to prison for possessing child porn, and more time may be added. This is 35-year-old John McCavitt, a former Peoria police officer. McCavitt was found guilty on 15 counts back in July of last year, and the Journal-Star reports the following, that he was sentenced today to 5 years, but may only spend another 15 months behind bars based on time already served. However, McCavitt also has to register as a sex offender and face further charges. He's accused of secretly videotaping a woman using the restroom at his home.
The Cleve-Heidelberg case is coming back to Peoria. The Journal-Star reports a 3rd District Appellate Court panel denied a motion by Heidelberg's attorney yesterday who wanted the Cook County State's Attorney's Office or Attorney General's Office to do a cold case review. Instead, it will be up to a Peoria County judge to decide just who will do that review. Heidelberg, who is now 74 years old, was convicted of the 1970 murder of Peoria Sheriff Sergeant Ray Espinoza. Maintaining his innocence, he fought for and won the chance for a new trial earlier this year. He is currently out on bond.
A Tazewell County inmate has been charged with possessing a weapon behind bars. And what's worse, the Journal-Star is reporting that he allegedly told a fellow inmate he was going to use it to stab a pregnant guard. The paper also states that this man, 28-year-old Brian Arnold of Delavan, admitted to making the knife but claimed he did so for self-protection. He's now facing a felony charge punishable by 4 to 15 years if convicted. He was already in jail on charges of possessing a stolen vehicle and unlawful use of a credit card.
Turning our attention to news that's topping the national news today. Shortly after news spread of former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn's guilty plea, Flynn was greeted a chance of lock him up as he left a federal court. He recalled a similar moment from the Republican National Convention when Flynn led chants of lock her up after he declared to the country it didn't need a president who believed she was above the law.
We do not need a reckless president who believes she is above the law. Lock her up. That's right. That's right. Lock her up.
Again, that guilty plea in reference to the fact that he pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI about involvement and conversations he had with Russia.
Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, close. Senate Republicans on the verge tonight of passing the most sweeping changes to your taxes in a generation after a flurry of last-minute deals.
Now we get all of the latest from Chief White House correspondent Hallie Jackson.
After a dramatic day of deal-making, a sweeping tax overhaul poised to pass the Senate, just barely. But barely's all they need. 51 Republicans now back the tax plan ahead of a vote on a bill some senators hadn't even seen.
At 4:15, we still have not seen this bill.
That's because GOP leaders scrambled to add so-called sweeteners to win over holdouts. For Maine's senator, the addition of a property tax deduction. For Alaska's, a provision to allow drilling at a massive wildlife refuge. And for Arizona's Jeff Flake, a personal promise from the vice president. He says he'll be involved in immigration negotiations down the road.
This kind of wheeling and dealing, is this really how the American people want to see a law get passed? Well, there's always negotiation that goes on with any legislation.
So what does the Senate bill actually include? Not even some senators knew for sure.
The fact that they're rushing it through shows you that they don't have confidence that it could withstand public scrutiny.
Ultimately, the Senate plan would cut individual tax rates, but only temporarily, with no guarantees everyone in the middle class will see their taxes go down. The bill would slash the corporate rate from 35% to 20% and add some tax breaks while eliminating other popular ones. While Republicans seem ready to celebrate, it's not over yet. The Senate's tax plan has some big differences with the version the House passed, like how many tax brackets there should be, whether the corporate tax cut should be delayed, and just how generous the child care tax credit will be.
If this thing gets passed, you still have to square it with the House version.
We'll get it done. I believe that we have to get this done.
Haley Jackson reporting there. The U.S. military, meanwhile, is now confirming the death of Army Ranger Josh Rogers was due to the result of friendly fire. Our news partners at the Pantograph report that the Rogers family is, quote, completely at peace. You'll recall Rogers was killed during a raid on an Islamic State compound earlier this year, along with another soldier in a 3-hour firefight against ISIS. Rogers was laid to rest in Evergreen Memorial Cemetery in Bloomington. And now to a tight deadline for dozens of people here in Peoria. Code enforcement is saying today that electrical issues inside the huge apartment building on Pennsylvania Terrace could cause another fire.
You'll recall we brought you this story as breaking news here last night. So inspectors have declared that building to be unsafe. So the city is threatening to shut the entire thing down by Tuesday if the owner fails to fix those problems. Peoria code enforcement officials have given the apartment owner, Penn Terrace Towers of New Jersey, 72 hours to fix the electrical problems. The residents and apartment manager were all given notices yesterday about those problems.
Fire inspectors noticed the electrical problems back in July when there was a fire inside that building, 1505 on the avenue. There are 100 units, but only 37 are occupied. Assistant Community Development Director Joe Doolin says the building owner had been given 6 or 7 weeks to fix the problems, but failed to do so.
The violations that existed in the eyes of our electrical engineer that we hired, could potentially cause a fire.
It's a huge inconvenience. People pay money to live here. People pay car insurance. People have bills to pay, and people have kids to take care of. So when you deal with things like this, it's really a big inconvenience.
Local attorney Thomas McConaughey represents the apartment owner. We reached out to him several times today, but he has not returned our phone calls. In the meantime, the city is making available to residents some resources to find alternate housing. If the problems, though, are not fixed by Monday, residents must be out by 1 p.m. Tuesday. Next on 25 News, hundreds of jobs are coming to McLean County. More on the company bringing those jobs to town.
And a new shining star for East Peoria. The reason behind the symbol associated with these lights, that's up next.
But we have a shining star in the sky, and tonight it's a huge full moon. Here's Chief Meteorologist Chuck Collins.
Yeah, if that moon looks bigger, closer, and brighter than it normally is, that's right, because we're expecting a super moon, and that'll officially be in here on Sunday. We'll tell you what that means in a couple of minutes, but as far as the currents are concerned, great nights for viewing heavenly bodies. 39 right now in Peoria, 36 in the Twin Cities, and planning your day tomorrow, spectacular weekend in the mid-50s, but then got some cold air coming our way. I'll talk more about that as well in a couple of minutes.
You're watching 25 News at 10 with Tyler Lopez, Caitlin Canute, Chief Meteorologist Chuck Collins, and Jim Matson, Sports. 25 News is your home team.